Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Magic Mics, proudly sponsored by CoolStuffInc.com, CardHoarder.com, Alter Sleeves, as well as Twitch subscribers and Patreon supporters just like you. I am Evan Irwin, and I'm going to get started each week by saying hello to my two co-hosts, MTG Nerd Girl.
Hello.
Ruben Bressler.
Happy Halloween season, everybody.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah. Now, if you missed our pre-show...
Are we still dressing up?
Oh, that's right. We should dress up.
We need to, talk about dressing up.
Well, so we're doing Alice in Wonderland, right? And I'm Alice.
Who was I again? Was I the
Wait, hold on. No. Nerd Girl was the Mad Hatter.
Right.
I was Alice, and you were the March Hare, I think.
Was I the bunny? Oh, the
bunny. The March Hare, yes.
March Hare. We'll figure it out. Look, the point is...
We'll figure it out. It's fine.
If you missed
I have a really good Velma. We could do Scooby-Doo.
Ooh, okay.
Well, if you missed our pre-show... subscribers to the channel gets access to the NSFW version early. It's where the boxes are all checked for the bad words. You can hear me say bad words and stuff. It's fantastic. But we kick it off with our first pick in the giveaway. Get your chance at $50 worth of anything at CoolStuffInc.com by putting an ! Raffle in the chat. But sub first to get 2 chances to win. And don't forget our raid at the end of the show to support a member of the community. Enter your suggestions at the end of the show to see who we raid tonight. And that is, of course, thanks to our sponsor, CoolStuffInc.com. You can find cool stuff in stock every day. And we move on here to the first pick, which is, of course, the World Championships. I am getting kind of hype. I mean, there were some accidents involved here. There was some deck lists that shouldn't have been leaked until like Friday morning before round 1 or whatever. But regardless, it seems pretty spicy.
Yeah, the Deckless Leak is, a lot of people I think are like, no big deal. Like, it's going to be open decklist during the tournament anyway. Yeah. But I think that there are actually a couple of people who brought some crazier lists who are going to take a really big hit. Not that people can change their list to get around it or play around their specific lists, right. But it's the type of out of left field list that you will lose to if you don't know how to play against it. So now the players have the time to actually just jam a bunch of games against those types of lists and get some good reps in. And I feel bad for those players who brought something spicy.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think there was some definite spice involved here. The Is It Epiphany decks, I think, are brilliant. The blue-white, have you seen the blue-white tempo?
The tempo deck
is like,
that deck, the Mori deck looks really interesting.
That's the main one I was talking about.
Yeah. I mean, no one would have any idea what was going on with that deck for many rounds until something happened. So yeah, I have it up here on screen right now. Like, just numbers that are just like 2 Malevolent Hermit, 1 Brutal Cathar, 1 Loyal Warhound, 4 Spectral Adversary shows up suddenly.
Sure.
Literally no one talked about that
adversaries.
8
Excuse me, I talked about that card.
Well, you did, because, you're ahead of your curve there. But and 1 Alrund's Epiphany? Like,
yeah.
What?
That's wild. I feel like that's a meme. I feel like they just have 1 Alrund's Epiphany just to be like, we're an Alrund's Epiphany deck.
Just the fun of, right?
Yeah. The interesting card to me is Fading Hope.
Yeah.
Which I feel like got no hype, got no build up, is just an unsummon, right?
Right.
But it's a 4 of in this deck, and it's a 4 of in another deck.
Yeah, I play 4 of this thing.
I believe it's in Ely Cassis's the Grixis.
The Grixis deck is amazing.
Sun deck, which is another of these weird out of left field decks.
For sure.
It's another Epiphany deck, sure.
It is.
But it is also got Celestis Sun
in there,
and a bunch of random garbage. So
the Celestis is amazing, and I've been playing this deck. This deck is brilliant. The numbers, I don't know why the numbers are the way they are, but they all work out perfectly, and you just murder mono green. Like, Fading Hope is perfect against the Ren token and any other random token that they have, like off of Ranger class. The Celestis is also a mana rock. I don't know why I forgot that, but I just forgot it made mana too, and I'm like, my God. No one was talking about Liar, like Disciple of the Drowned, when all of those cheap, Fading Hopes and your expressive iterations can be replayed. That's incredible. Like, I was playing one game where they duressed an Epiphany out of my hand, and of course I got to replay it later because Liar was out on the battlefield. Like, it's absolutely incredible. And this is the type of deck that would have just been like unbelievable on that Friday. It's still unbelievable and it's still cool, but man, they lost a ton of edge because of that mistake.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate. I mean, I think that we're all, I mean, I'm assuming, but I at least am of the old school mentality of decklists aren't final till you turn the decklist in on Saturday morning, right? Or Friday morning. Like that's, I like the, what are we making as our 60th card? What's our, can I find the copy of sideboard tech that I need the morning of the tournament to be able to put in my sideboard?
For the wax wains and all that.
Yeah, to find the Yavimaya barbarians and whatnot. And I think that's like fun for me. Knowing everything early is a little bit it's less fun for me. Mm-hmm. With that said, knowing everything way early actually works out in the favor of this tournament. You're right. The hype for this is way higher knowing the deck lists 4 days early, in my opinion, than I would have been hyped about this tournament at all.
Yeah.
Maybe it wasn't an accident for that reason.
That's right.
Oh, the tinfoil hats are on.
Viral marketing. Yeah.
They did it. Yeah, the whole thing was just kind of weird. And from what I understand, this was not MTG Melee's mistake. This was the setting up the tournament in such a way that the deck list became public when there was a little magical checkbox that wasn't magically checked. And that's a problem.
That is my understanding as well. When you set up the tournament in Melee, there is an option. The default is to share deck lists, and then you actually have to take that down when starting the event. So I do think this was probably just a creation mistake, or not mistake. Who knows? But yeah, I mean, like I said, it does feel a little worse for the spicier lists, but I mean, it is building more hype, and it generated a lot of social media action. You probably get more viewers for Magic, which is overall probably a good thing. And also, this is the event where they have the higher appearance fees, right?
Yeah, but this is the one where they were like, "Oops, we're going to give away $1 million in terms of $50,000 for everybody."
That said, if this was the original tournament with $1 million prize pool and like no appearance fees, this would have been way more devastating, and I would feel so much worse for the spicy lists. But there's like next to no money online compared to the appearance fees. So it's like, oops, but like, okay, we can still all play Magic and have a really good time, which I actually really like.
Yeah, no, you can relax a little bit in terms of like, you have that Woody Harrelson pile of dollar bills to dab your eyes with. Necessary.
What are you going to do? Not play Esika's Chariot now that you know what you're playing against? I mean, get real. Like the metagame is still, there are some spicy lists, you're right. But the metagame is still Esika's Chariot, Alrund's Epiphany, and Luminarch Aspirant. Like that's the metagame. Those are the 3 cards. So, we're not really, we have some cool things going on with those cards, but we're not really doing anything so far out of left field. I think that there are no swamps, I think was the thing I heard, or there was like 3 swamps.
Ouch.
There's just a ludicrously low number of swamps and a ludicrously low number of black cards also. So, there's just none in the field almost.
I mean, after playing limited for the last month, I'm happy to never see a swamp ever again.
I'm just man, there's a lot of eye twitch out there. I'm just kind of over it.
But no one's playing it in this tournament.
No one is playing this tournament. Well, that Grixis deck is way better than the eye twitch decks. I know because I played the eye twitch decks with that deck and I smashed them with it, and it's great. So yes, please. Thank you.
It could have something to do with maybe the difference between best of 3 versus best of 1. Those decks are very, very different on what you're going to bring.
True.
Also, like, when you're at the level of play that these players are at compared to the rest of us, when I go to a big tournament, when I went to the Invitational, when I went to the PT, like I actively don't take the best deck because I know if you have the best deck and I have the best deck, I can't beat you. So I try to give myself an edge by taking the deck that beats the best deck and just hope I get paired up against them to give myself a little help. Sure. So these players are playing something that is probably so far beyond what we would expect to see because, they're playing at a different level.
Yeah, that's fair. And so moving on here to gathering our townsfolk. There are new APAC promos. Only in the Asian Pacific region can you find these, but they are super duper cool. And originally, from earlier this year, there was Seth Ron Herloon General was out for the Lunar New Year. Excuse me. And then here we have some more that are going to be showing up. The Morog, Fury of Ikawa, Ox of Agonis. This right here, the Angrath, the Flame Chain. That's for the Year of the Ox, which is really cool.
Right. Well, they're all for the Year of the Ox.
That's fair. And this is the new alternate art Planeswalker for the Ox, of course, and along with Tangarth, First Mate, right there.
Nice.
That looks great.
That's really good art.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. I don't know how anyone gets these.
Well, you have to be in the Asian Pacific area to get them to start with. So
right.
Otherwise,
that's step one.
Check
and
with
then
your
step
local
two
game
is
store.
Step 2 is WPN store, and step 3 is
question marks.
These are going to be so rare.
Yes.
Again, like these are another of these. There's going to be 8 of them total. Right. Which is crazy to me.
The things that are that rare, I'm definitely understanding, but they're producing so much random stuff that's like a little bit here, a little bit there. The alternate arts, we've talked about this in the past. I was actually looking up All Runes Epiphanies today to buy a deck list for Standard, and the extended alter art All Runes Epiphany is the same as the regular. Like, for reals. There's just so many variations now that I think it just almost doesn't matter anymore.
It has to be like the most extreme variation for you really to see those crazy jumps. Like the extended art foil Jeweled Lotus is like $400 or whatever. But generally the extended art and the non-extended art are closer in range. But to give you an idea of what these may be worth, the Seth Ron Herloon General I talked about earlier is now worth about $43. So that's a, it's not infinite dollars.
Yeah,
it's
that's
not
way less than I thought it was going to be.
Right. So, and that's only obviously going to grow over time as Magic cards do. You could also argue that these are making like pseudo reserve list cards because they're never going to come back and make these exact promos again. But these also aren't cards that are like, format defining, we know Magic because Seth Ron exists and stuff like that.
Right.
But still cool stuff. And I'm happy to see cool new promos. In some ways, it's nicer to see them having less, caring less about these very unique things. They used to really not do anything close to this, like not even close. Now they're like stamping promos and stuff, and that's almost unheard of comparatively.
There's definitely a Year of the Ox Sacred Cow joke that I was trying to formulate, but I couldn't
you were
figure
working
it
on
out
it.
in time. But
you were working on it.
This is the IKEA joke. Here's the premise. You build it at home.
Nice. You gave us the pieces. Well,
yeah.
Wizards kind of, I guess, overlook is a way to put it, but like this is the weirdest band announcement I've ever seen through a tweet. Just a good old random fashion tweet that came out of the Wizards customer service Twitter that said, by the way, we would like to acknowledge that with the release of Innistrad Midnight Hunt, the card Pithing or Pithing Needle, however you want to call it, Pithing Needle is banned in both Brawl and Historic Brawl, because that makes Brawl not work because you can use Planeswalkers in those formats. But yeah, that the surprise ban card. Everybody
from the customer service Twitter. Yeah. The announcement's not surprising. Anything that says name a card, the named card can't do things in a format where you start the game with one of those cards revealed.
Right.
This is obvious. Like, I totally get it. The random one-off tweet from the Wizards customer support line avenue is a new one. I feel like we've had these weird band announcements in the past come from like just completely out of left field places. This one's in the Hall of Fame though, for sure.
This one, we get it, we understand, I know why it's there. It's just so silly of all the ways to announce it. Like, not a website update, nothing.
I'm wondering if they just didn't know which account they were logged into.
And then they were like, well, we kind of got to leave it now, don't we? And you're like, well, I guess. Which is
I definitely did an announcement in the community Discord as opposed to the team member Discord. It was nothing bad. The team is all about, transparency. But like someone was like, and I did it in Magic Mike's the other day too. I posted my top 10 list in like our feedback channel.
That's right. Yeah. Oops. Luckily, I saw it. I think I saw it first.
Yeah, I didn't see that one, so you must have got that one.
But like of everybody on the Discord, I was like, oh, here we go. But yeah, this is like when there's like a television commentator who's got a burner Twitter account and forgets to log out of their verified account and is like, that commentator was right, and is actually just talking about themselves in the third person. Yeah, I think that's a likely scenario. I don't know exactly how the social media managers at Wizards operate, but the thing that is weird about this is that it's not a Magic account. This is a Wizards customer support account, which is a different floor. That is a different floor in the building. So
I'm wondering if it's like maybe to shuffle it, like make it lost a little bit.
Could be.
There is
maybe it gets a little less traction.
In the news cycle. Yeah.
Wizards having communication problems. Say it ain't so. All right. So we have I don't know how this came about, but it's Brian David Marshall. Brian David Marshall is awesome. He was the Pro Tour historian. He always will be in my mind. There will be events where Brian gets to be there and be awesome and great. And I got to draft with him a million times when I was at the Pro Tour, and it was great. But he got to live one of his dreams, which was incredible, and play out and throw out the first pitch at a Mets game. And he had a whole video kind of made. This looks like they kind of like sort of package these up for you if you do this as an experience. So I don't know how this came about. If somebody does know, please let me know. But I wanted to just check this out real fast because I thought it was cool.
Yeah, Zvi Mauschowitz was the catcher here, and BDM and Zvi are partners in some comic thing. They announce it in the video, what they're working on. I don't know what it is, but BDM's pitch made it to home plate.
Yes.
That's all you can hope for with the first pitch. Zvi with the bobble of the catcher is fine. So nobody cares about what's happening behind the plate. If the ball gets to the plate, you've had a successful first pitch.
And that's what he does. And he dropped it, unfortunately. But BDM got there, and we did it. And that's awesome. And I miss Brian, and this is great. So
yeah, what a cool moment.
That was super. Yeah. That was cool. Stop that. All right. So that said, let's see here. Not so much thrilled about the standard through the ages. Honestly, a lot of people were making fun of it because they didn't have the decks labeled correctly in the client, but whatever. Instead, let's talk about something super cool and positive. And this would be the Extra Life 2021 involvement with Wizards of the Coast. They did it last year when they paired up and raised over $1.6 million for Children's Miracle Network hospitals, which is obviously fantastic. And they're going to have a live streaming event on November 6th, it looks like right here. And they're going to have a Q&A with Mark Rosewater. All sorts of cool little bits here. Vintage cube drafts are going to be happening, set booster mini games and stuff. The gear that you get to have the sleeve on Magic Arena. There's the t-shirt and whatnot that you can buy here, and the super cool playmat, which I think, let's see, how do you get, is this a playmat kind of a giveaway thing? Let's see here.
Usually you can purchase them. So like they did the 1 year, they did playmats, shirts, and the My Little Pony cards. This playmat looks actually very similar to the one that they did 2 years prior, I believe. Yeah, so you're going to be able to purchase these, and all of the proceeds to this goes towards the Extra Life fund that they will be running. And it's usually really big with all of the creators as well.
Down here in the bottom right, that's my boy Daniel Holt. That was my employee for I think almost a year or a little past that. He's absolutely terrific. I'm super proud of the guy. And it's awesome. It's a little surreal, right? To go from he was working with me here in Orlando, and now he's on this playmat because he lives in Seattle.
Now, one thing that I'm most excited for, and I'm hoping that this is just me being an old Magic person. They've got Iron Root Chef on the menu.
Oh boy.
for the Extra Life, featuring Gavin Verhey, Aaron Forsyth, Melissa DeTora, and more. I want Nathan Holt. I want the Wizard. I want the Walk the Plains guys back. That would make me very happy.
The Iron Root Chef thing, this was an Adam Staborski jam that he still had running to some extent when I took over back when he left Cool Stuff about 5-ish years ago, 5.5 years ago. And I can imagine if he's not involved, I would be shocked. Let's put it that way. Stibbs is at Wizards now, so hopefully
now,
they can
Nerd Girl, you do a bunch of Extra Life stuff. Are you doing stuff this year?
Yeah, so, Wizards they interact a ton with the content creators for this push. They invite us to make teams, and then we do a bunch of things in those teams, and they give the top teams exclusive alternates for arena code, like the winning team. Last year I was on the winning team and we got like 7,000 alters that we were able to give out amongst for one card. And there's no other way to get it. You can't get it anymore. We got the 7,000 alternate collected companies of a specific art. And that was really cool. Nice. My teams the last 2 years have gotten second and first. And then this year we're doing a team with the Degenerate Gaming team. So hopefully we'll do very well.
Nice.
There you go.
That's awesome.
So moving on here to some Desperate Ravings. There was a Judge Academy update that happened, and I don't know every nook and cranny of it, okay? But they do note in here that there's going to be Judge Academy structural changes. I'll go ahead and bring this thing up on the screen here for you guys. And so, you know, they mentioned that they're talking to judges in various regions. They realized to best serve our members, we need to account for more than just the judge's location, yada, yada, yada. Similar to guilds or other color combinations, you might feel a pull towards multiple motivations, but there will be one that sticks out as a stronger connection, such as event paladins and event warriors and rules wizards and community bards. Guys.
Fine. Listen.
Guys.
It's okay. It's fine.
This is embarrassing. No, seriously. This is stuff I used to do when I was in 5th grade, and we would have our own little clubs, and you would be the bard and I would be the wizard. People aren't going to take you seriously. That's what happens. You can't do this unless you're in school. I'm sorry. You're going to make it silly. If they're judges, they're judges. People know what a judge is. They call for a judge. You can still tell me that we're calling for judges, but you're calling them rules wizards internally is a problem, okay? There's only so many ways you can moniker a certain person in a certain... It's silly. I'm sorry. This is ridiculous.
I think you're just...
silly.
I don't think it's
silly.
I don't think this is a big deal. I mean, it's not worth red
deal.
zoning.
It's
not worth red zoning over. I just think you're way overreacting to this.
This is the only thing it is what they're internally calling judges.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fine. Do what you want in the privacy of your own judge community.
I mean, if the judges don't mind it, and if I start seeing judges on Twitter saying that like they feel like, you know, they're being belittled or something, then we can talk about it. But until then, I don't care. Call them whatever you want. I mean, as long as the judges are fine with it.
You're right. You're not going to raise your hand and call wizard. Like, it's not how that works.
No, because it's an internal...
And that's great.
Organizational technique.
And things will leak.
It's not for you.
Okay.
It's for them. It's so that they know that the bards are doing something, that the wizards are doing something. And I think it's fun and harmless. I don't see any problem.
I went to the Riot campus, and anybody who's been there for 1 year has to wear the little Teemo hats. Nice. And it's like cute. I don't know. It seems sort of like a similar thing. Like,
yeah. How is this where you draw the line in the sand in our trading card game?
Right, because it's important that position of those people who are running the events, it's very serious, and like we're here to have fun and be 100%. By the rules by doing it. And it's just those monikers are just silly. I can't get over it. It's fine. Obviously call yourselves what you want. Call yourself ninjas and wizards and robots. It doesn't hurt my feelings. I just feel like when the world looks in on Magic and you start talking about, we're wizards and stuff and we're community bards.
I just don't think this is...
Wait. The thing you have a problem with is that you want people to look at the Magic community and think very serious.
Well, there it is.
The fact
There's
that,
the thing.
Oh my god, we literally are wizards. I'm a freaking wizard, okay?
The judges at the events.
I cast spells.
The judges at the events need that type of respect. And
I think they are, right? We're still calling judge.
And we are, because we've been around forever. But the people who are new, and all of a sudden this terminology gets used more frequently, this stuff has a way of leaking outwards.
This is nothing.
This is nothing. It's silly.
The thing
we
that
have
is
to talk
something
about something each week, all right? Here we are.
The thing that is something about the Judge Academy is that they did update some of their, like, how you get things policy. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure that you have to go to conferences now.
Okay.
To get the Judge Academy foils. And previously, all you had to do was judge events or participate in video conferences. Now it's physical conferences, which is going to cut out some number of people that can either only they work on the weekends, or they can only, take off enough time to go do events, or they can't afford to fly to wherever the conference is.
There does appear to still be digital conferences for what it's worth, but ultimately it also mentions, real world live events that you can attend as a judge.
Yeah.
But on the to pivot into something that's purely better, that not my just random complaining, is they upped the actual compensation for the judges at MTG Vegas, which is amazing. I don't like bringing that up and trying to embarrass any sort of organizer. I hate it. I want them to just treat the judges like they used to. That was the problem, is that it was smaller than what we had before the freaking COVID happened. So that was why we brought it up, and we're upset, not just because we're, fighting the good fight. It was, we're not even getting what we had,
Yeah. We had that conversation a week ago, and I was actually willing to give them a little bit of a benefit of the doubt just because we've seen lower turnouts for everything.
Sure.
So it definitely makes sense because the cost of running the event is very similar. Mm-hmm. But I would have definitely liked for them to make some sort of timeline to get back to where they were. I'm definitely happy that they've just upped it. Are we back to where we were now?
I believe we're back. Based on those numbers, I believe we are.
The final number, I believe, is back to where we are. A pharmacist judge is in the chat and can help me here.
Please confirm.
I believe that the ultimately the final number is basically back to where it was. They got to it in a different way. I believe the base rate changed and the daily rate remained the same. Mm-hmm. Let's see here. It's up a few percent for a few places and down a few places. All right. Well, so we're close to where we were.
Yeah, I was sort of in the middle just because, Magic, as a player, if the prize pool was smaller because they were expecting a slow, a lower thing, I would understand that. And I don't want my judge friends to work for less, of course. But as a community, if we want paper Magic to come back, there might just have to be some concessions. But again, all irrelevant now. I'm glad that judges are well, I'm not glad because they're still not getting paid what they deserve. But right. I'm glad that it's getting closer.
Yeah, and it is, but it's just one of those things that to not even take into account any sort of cost of life increase or inflation and to then offer less, it's just guys, this is a new paradigm and all, but give us a break. So glad that changed. Kudos for them to change it. And Slop's obviously the fact we had to talk about it. Yeah. Moving on here, someone on Twitter had mentioned or had noticed here that the 13% of all the commanders ever printed came out in the last 10 months. That's a lot. That's 160 of the 1230 that currently exist. And, we did have a conversation about this at one point, which was they're not even calling them standard sets anymore. They're premier sets, and their focus is commander. I mean, you can see it every single set. And I see it on the cool stuff side because we have authors who write about, commanders and the new commanders, the new sets. And there's a lot of new commanders than there used to be. Maybe every set would have 5 to 10, maybe 15 or whatever. Now we see a whole bunch in every single one, let alone Commander Legends, which just has a bajillion.
I mean, Commander's where the money's at. They sell the most product by far. I mean, all my pro friends, they buy hardly anything. Mm-hmm. We borrow decks. We, have whatever. And it's pretty minimal. You keep a standard deck for a long time. But EDH players, they have a lot of decks. They love sealed product. They love all of the Commander individual decks and all the extra goodies. There's just a lot larger of a market for it.
Oh, and there it is. I mean, on cool stuff.
They buy a lot more. And I also borrow decks back when I borrowed decks from Commander players. They are the ones who are the ones that the collectors are the Commander players. It's the Venn diagram's a circle.
Right. It's the idea that, the pro player, and we saw this, Ruben. We grew up basically, and/or fostered that community of the Pro Tour grinders, the PTQers, and they didn't buy nothing. We borrowed off each other as much as we could. I mean, we would make lists, all right, Ruben's got 4 of these shock lands and this blah blah blah. He's got my Dark Confidants, and okay, and I've got your we'd have a whole booklet of stuff at the end of the event. We'd have to give everybody back all their stuff. It was crazy.
Yep.
I went a step farther and I negotiated deck borrowing as part of my sponsorship deal.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime cool stuff is at a GP, I get to borrow a deck.
Yeah. I used to do that with people. I used to do that with some people that I used to borrow decks from. I don't want to like shout names out in case they don't want to be known. I don't know why they wouldn't, but like basically they'd be like, here's the deck. Give me, 10% of what you win.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, that happened all the time. You would borrow a deck and you would give them something because you didn't have the cards if they wouldn't for them. So help them out. And I've known multiple people who've had setups at Pro Tours like that, where they would get decks from different vendors and those vendors would be ready and here you go. And
great.
Or they would have, this is what the team is playing. So they would have 4 copies of the deck just ready to go and like sleeved and everything. Like there's all sorts of setups for depending on who you are and what you're doing. But anyway, to go back to what we originally talked about, which was there's a lot of commanders. And commander people buy a lot of cards, and turns out they make a lot more commanders when they start being commander focused.
Yeah, so. And when they start coming out with every set has 2 commander decks
or more
with a main legend and then an alternate legend.
I'll be honest,
there's a million legendary creatures.
Okay, all right, here we go. Hot take time. I don't play the most commander, okay, but I do play a lot of Brawl. All right. Mm-hmm. Commander damage is like damage on the stack. It's embarrassing, and we need to get rid of it. There's no good reason to have commander damage that I can be aware of. There's no mechanics that take advantage of it, I think, for a reason, because I feel like at one point there'll just be like, could we just not have 2 life totals and just have the 1 life total?
It is always awkward sitting at a commander table and then, keeping track of commander damage from specific commanders.
I just think it's silly.
Awkward.
I mean, but again, pharmacist judge who says it's essential. I definitely would err on the side of people who play commander because they know why that rule exists. Again,
absolutely.
I'm Mr. Brawl playing on arena guy who only has 1 life total to care about. Yeah. And I always felt like it would be super weird if I had to go around and noting all the other life totals for the other generals. So
I just feel like casual magic is there's so much casual magic in every direction that like you're going to find a variation of everything. And this is the one that stuck, and it's by far the most popular format out there. And it's definitely got the most excited community as well. Everybody's always talking about their commanders and things. It's obvious, and the content side of it. There's a reason why I just did a commander video with Alias, and it was really well performing. I did game nights and stuff like that. Commander product and content are just so far out there. It's got to be good for a reason.
I mean, I'm the one who sponsored that commander video, so like they're cool stuff. So like that's why we're doing that stuff, because people like to watch it. They get a kick out of it. So all right, we're gonna move on here to some splash damage. I felt like we can't get through this week without discussing the fact that Twitch accidentally the whole database and showed what their payouts were to some of their top streamers, what those amounts were over the past 26 months, the fact that we had a top 10 list that includes one of my very own co-hosts, which you're awesome, and that's why you're there, and you're doing the work, and you did the work. And so there's some what I would describe as misconceptions as to what those numbers mean and look like, and what they don't mean, and what they don't look like. And so, Nerd Girl, I'd like to kind of just hand it over to you. Let's serve it. How do you feel at this point? 3 or 4 days out?
So, I mean, it was a little weird. I woke up to the announcement. I wasn't super concerned. I had a few messages from viewers and things. I checked out the Reddit, checked out Twitter and what a lot of people were saying. I do think that there are a lot of common misconceptions, but I've always been pretty open with my community as far as what we were making. My subscriber count's never a secret, and that's where the bulk of that number comes from. Mm-hmm. So, it didn't bother me too much. It is a little weird because I've just never published anything like that before. I will say one of the misconceptions is that people think that smaller creators and larger creators are the same when it comes to other outside sources. So people were looking at like my income, right? And they're saying, well, she gets all this other stuff, which is not always true, but would be true for someone like Day9, who does do casting and has bigger sponsors and things like that, gets ad revenue. Small channels on Twitch, my ad revenue is $100 a month. It's pretty minimal.
You're on YouTube?
Yeah. And then also people are thinking, $70,000 a year is really high, but then you pay regular taxes, you pay 15% self-employment tax, and that doesn't include things like giveaways or equipment and, fancy, crazy internet.
Travel expenses, and just, again, living your life. Just eating meals, and buying clothes and furniture and stuff that you need to exist. So
have you had any correspondence with the people, and I don't know if you normally do, but the people who are, let's say, a slot above and a slot below you on the Twitch list?
I have not talked to any of them. I mean, I know all of them.
Right, of course.
But I mean, not about this.
Not about this. Okay.
I saw that, Voxy was a little, like, she did a thing on Twitter and she was a little upset about it, but CGB did the polar opposite. CGB is one of my best friends. I knew most of his stuff before. And he was like, yeah, this is what I make. Like, again, I've never talked about it, but it's also not like a secret either. And, it doesn't really bother us too much.
Yeah.
Right. If you haven't seen Covert Go Blue's video, I would highly recommend it where he talks about how much he's making on each platform. The core point, period, is that you should be making YouTube videos. YouTube videos pay out way better. I mean, the volume that my channel gets to the amount of ad revenue that I get from YouTube versus the volume of our Twitch, the streams that we do and the volume I get, like, it's not close. It's ridiculous. So, like, making content on different platforms pays in different ways. And what I think he also showed is not just what Twitch is doing, but what you could be doing at YouTube, which I thought was brilliant. And he didn't have to do that. And Lord knows, I totally understand how sort of most of that video, he was like, I'm uncomfortable and I don't like this. And I've never been this weirded out before. It's because, people just don't like talking about this stuff.
People don't like talking about money. Period. That is just a thing that as humans, we are not equipped to discuss. We aren't good at talking about our worth, period, whether that's monetary or otherwise.
Sure.
And so this is why conversations in the workplace about having, people getting paid the same are important, because employers are sometimes counting on the shyness factor and the awkwardness to be able to, pay less, but that's neither here nor there. Right. This led to a bunch of strange conversations in a number of bizarre ways, a lot of which came from the usual angry, loud mouthpiece sources of, well, these people should be getting real jobs, kind of argument, which every time anything related to money appears when it comes from Twitch or YouTube or anything artistic, people who don't make art will come out of the woodwork and say, you shouldn't make art anymore and get a real job, which is demonstrably false. Society falters when there's nothing to look forward to. There's no reason to fight wars if there's no reason for what you're fighting for to exist. No one would have survived quarantine without Netflix. No one would have survived quarantine without Disney Plus. Like, you need to stop it with your, obviously I'm preaching to the choir here,
sure.
But, it's like, what are you doing? What's your argument? Like, also turn the free entertainment that you're watching off if that's your argument.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. Another thing that I saw is, particularly for the really high paid Twitch channels. Obviously I'm a big D&D nerd. The highest, channel when I clicked on the thing was Critical Role.
Not close.
And there was it was not close. I mean, the professional channels, things like Riot, like they're making buku, like crazy numbers.
CSGO was up there, sure.
Yeah. But Critical Role is effectively a huge mom and pop shop.
Right.
And people were like, how can they possibly get all this money? Why are they able to do, there was a bunch of consternation from like inside the fan base in some cases, which is a little weird, but mostly from observers who don't understand. Mm-hmm. And basically it all boils back down to, you got this production value. You got these people putting in hours of work. You got, Nerd Girl, you put in 60 hours of a week at least.
Cute.
Well, I'm just saying, because I can't fathom.
I stream 60 hours some weeks.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Well, yeah, you work 100 hours a week.
She works infinite, yes.
Yeah, but I'm just like the amount of energy and time that people are putting into to effectively get a teacher's salary, which also teachers should get paid more, as we mentioned during the pre-show, is ludicrous. So stop undervaluing things that make everyone happy is kind
That's
of my
definitely fair. I don't think that the percentage of people having been a full-time streamer, especially a female one who gets, basically a lot of grief for being a female about being a creator is so easy because you're a girl, things like that. I don't think that the ratio was too much higher than what I get normally. It was all a lot at one time, but there was also like, yay for them. The one thing I did want to touch on briefly, having made it into that top 10 list, you know, I am exclusively Twitch. So, you know, I feel like that, again, is a little bit, which we talked a lot about in the pre-show, misleading to a lot of people when they look at other creators. Like, for example, if you check out CGB's video where, you know, he talks about the diversity of his income, right? So CGB would technically be a lot higher if he dedicated his entire time to Twitch. But one of the major things I want to touch on is people are like, see, you know, if you exclude the Magic channel, I think I was the 7th highest Magic Twitch creator. Now, after I pay my taxes, I make just over a teacher's salary, which we talked about on the pre-show. So think of how many Magic creators there are on Twitch, and there's only 7 of us or 6 of us making higher than a teacher's salary. And, you know, you can exclude like, you know, Day9 or whatever, because they do a ton of other things too. So like, of the people that are creating full-time content for people, croakies to me, there's like 5 of us. Everybody else is below the poverty line, below minimum wage.
Just barely getting it together as best they can and hope it works out. And
barely paying mortgage in the US, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And, you know, and these numbers, you know, back when I ran larger budgets for other websites and things, you know, people still weren't making this kind of money. Like, you know, they were still making less than the teacher salary or whatever. Like it's a supplement, you know, or whatever. And so, you know, and this show ourselves, like we're, you know, comparatively a fantastically, you know, well doing podcast, or successful podcast, and I'm obviously thrilled about that, you know. But you know, we weren't on that list either, because you know we're not pulling in infinite dollars. We're also not pulling in infinite hours. So you know,
the only other thing I wanted to mention that I think is really important is that people aren't taking into account not just the taxes, because a lot of people did bring that up in the comments, but what about editors? What about graphic designers? What about you know, making introductions? What about any of the props or giveaways? Like, there is so much that goes into that. Like CGB, I watched your video, but I don't remember you talking about the cost of what you do, the crazy internet that we have to have. That's, you know, 10x oftentimes what a typical internet bill would cost.
Right.
The overhead is sometimes astronomical depending on the type of content you're trying to do. Take game nights, for example. Yeah. I've been to the house that they have only for game nights. And like, they have crazy cameras that are attached to the ceiling that swing around and do a bunch of stuff. Like, I can't imagine how much that costs for maintenance. Holy smokes.
Yeah.
A lot.
But people will see this big sticker value of how many subs they have or how much ad revenue they get from YouTube, and then just kind of assume that everything else is just gravy. I don't know. I don't get it.
Yeah.
And we have, you know, 2 editors that help work on this show that you're listening to or watching right now.
Thank you, editors.
Thank you so much. And, you know, we pay those guys because they do a great service for us. So, you know, it was just
fabulous. Yeah. Rich and Chris are fabulous. The folks that make the graphics for our channel are fabulous. And obviously, again, we are nowhere near 95% of Twitch channels that have 10 or fewer average viewers, right?
Yeah.
But we're also not top 10. There's a huge gulf there, and it's an exponential curve, and there's a big gap in between. Much less overall all of Twitch, and you look at the numbers that like Hasanabi and Ludwig are getting, and like these huge streamers. And it, you know, the curve just keeps going from there. So, you know, this is not intended to be either a humble brag or a complaint. But it is an interesting observation that people are saying complaints and making humble brags over a thing that shouldn't really need that or warrant it.
Certainly.
Well, that's our culture, I guess. I certainly can understand how this is different in other cultures, but certainly in ours, it was really weird to see all that information and to kind of talk about it publicly. All right, let's turn the corner here to the finisher. One of the big stories this week was when Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp went down for about 6 hours on Monday. And suddenly, literally billions of people around the world were forced off of their devices, which in some way is a blessing in disguise. So tell me, if everything shut off for 24 hours, what would you do with your disconnected day off, Ruben?
No phones, no laptops, no problem for me, because I'm a big fan of tabletop. I have some new RPG books to catch up on reading, some products to organize, and of course, thousands of dice to buy for my dice hoard. You can never have enough dice.
It's true.
Nerd Girl?
So unplugging is one of my favorite things. Disconnecting and going to the beach, sitting back and relaxing, closing my eyes, and stressing about all of the work I'm not doing.
Yeah.
Don't act like you know me, Ruben.
Yeah.
He's throwing out those low numbers.
This is at you. This is complete attack.
When I decide to leave civilization behind, I really fall off the grid. I take my bug out bag, I shut down all my electronics and shove them in a lead safe, and I head out to the most backwoods place that exists in the world. My mama's house in Morristown, Tennessee. There you go.
Hey, got him.
Got him, y'all. And that ends another live episode of Magic Mike's. Thanks for joining us here to discuss all things magic. Thank you, Nerd Girl.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you, Ruben.
Hey, thank you. And thanks everybody for joining us.
Yeah, move here to our final slide. I want to thank our sponsor, CoolStuffInc.com, our co-sponsors, CardHoarder.com and Alter Sleeves, my co-host, Nerd Girl, and Ruben Bressler. You guys for watching and listening. I hope you support us at patreon.com/magicmics. Please follow, like, tweet, favorite, share, subscribe to everything social that tells people we exist. Catch us online on our Discord, twitch.tv at Magic Mics, on Twitter at Magic Mics Cast, our Magic Mics subreddit, and like the Magic Mics page on Facebook. Or join us here next week, same time, same place, for another episode of Magic Mics. Good night, everybody.